if you look, to me, the dollar system is being globalized. Now it's been globalized by the euro dollar as well.
Yeah.
But basically you have a central banking system and a dollar system. It's being run globally, and the people who control and run it don't identify with national sovereignty.
No, and for them it would be more beneficial to have a lot of small states instead of big unions like the US or the European Union.
Right. If you've got satellite weapons, then you're better off with everybody, pulling apart. Now, here's the thing. I don't think you give up on governments, because governments have been very useful for control. You lever the government up, you put it in a debt trap, and then you have the government, coming up with all these rules and regulations that drive us crazy. If you talk to all the governments who've been saying, no, we won't sign the WHO treaty, or no, we want to pull out of the WHO, what the government leaders will tell you is we're in a debt trap. And if we don't do what they say, if we don't go into the WHO or we don't go along with this treaty, we're going to lose. The World Bank's not going to roll over our debt, or, The banks have got us by the short hairs because we're in a debt trap. And that's what they've done to the United States. You remember, you've got 34 trillion officially of debt. Yeah. I would argue much more, unofficially. But you've got 30.
How much more do you think if you add up all the black budgets over the past few years?
So we'll get into that in a second. Yeah. Let me finish this. So you got 34 trillion of debt. Here's what's important to understand. There are two things that are important to understand. They could have issued $34 trillion of currency out of the Treasury. There is no reason we have 34 trillion in debt, right?
Yeah.
Treasury could have just issued greenbacks.
Yeah.
Now, every time a president tries to issue greenbacks, they get shot. One of the reasons I live in Tennessee is Andrew Jackson tried, and he got shot, but he took the bullet and lives. He got the bank killed. But we don't need to have 34 trillion. It's a scam.
Yeah.
So that's number one. And I can understand why, there are benefits to the scam, but the other thing is, if you look at the finances of the US government, after they issued that 34 trillion and put the 34 trillion in the Treasury, 21 trillion that we can prove, and even more, I would argue, disappeared out the back door. So we've got debt we didn't need to have, and the assets that debt finance are literally owned and controlled privately by people. In other words,
so that balance sheet looks quite insolvent to me.
But it's not, because, those assets belong to the citizens.
Welcome to Flipping the Tables, video number 3. Thanks for joining me. I started out with that video from Catherine Austin Fitts. There's two statements that she made in that short clip there. The first one that I wanted you to take note of was what she said about all the debt, the 30-something trillion dollars in debt that need never have been made in the form of debt. It could have just been printed by the government instead of being printed by private central bankers. I'm dead against all money printing. We should be using real money. We're not slaves. But if we were going to submit to slavery, we could at least submit to slavery to a government instead of to private central bankers who are infinitely more ruthless, but they work hand in hand. So slavery is slavery. But my point is, all that debt never needed to exist. And the reason I'm emphasizing that is because in my first video here on YouTube, well, it's not my first video, but on this channel, I started out by calling for the absolutely critical necessity of a debt jubilee. This must happen. We all need to be demanding this, and I'm convinced that it has to happen. It's the only just way forward. We have to have a debt jubilee on all bank debt, and that short clip there, the first part of that short clip, verifies that. None of this debt needed to happen. All the debt that everybody owes was just created out of thin air. Therefore, it needs to be cancelled out, and the central bankers need to be put on trial. But the second part of that clip is the reason for this video. And let me tell you, This is just something that I need to put on the record, and putting this on the record is going to make the stuff that I've been saying will make the central bankers and the order followers in the CIA want me dead. Of course, they're not going to give a damn because I have no reach. But if I ever get any reach, they'll want me dead. And what I'm about to say now is going to certainly make that the case. And so be it. This needs to be said. If you listen carefully to what Catherine Austin Fitts said just then, she told you how $21 trillion went out the back door. Now, you saw in my thumbnail, I said, the only war we need to have is a war between our local police and the CIA. And the reason I said that is because our local police, with an awakening, they could come to understand that they are in fact on the side of the people. The CIA, there is no mistake about it. Going back from their beginning, they worked for the bankers. They are the enforcement arm of the bankers. So you heard Catherine Austin Fitts say there how any president that tries to issue currency gets taken out. And there's an infinite amount of evidence that the CIA is the enforcement arm of the bankers, not specifically the government. My point is, if and when my work here ever gets any reach, the reason why I assume that it will is because nobody else is saying the very basic and obvious fact that there is a huge amount of wealth in the hands of criminals. And everybody in the justice system knows that criminals are not allowed to keep the proceeds of their crimes. And this is what all counterfeiting and central banking wealth is built on. It's all built on crime. So there's this enormous amount of wealth in the hands of criminals, and that's why there's no need for any recession or austerity or any of this. Like, we could be going into a golden age, not this recession that they're setting us up for. And so what I'm trying to do with this video is point out that if my work actually gets through to any police and they start seeing the sense in what I'm saying, they're going to find that they will come up against the CIA. That's the real war. And that's the war that needs to happen. You know, these horrible genocides that happen, the ones they're trying to set us up for, the one that just happened in Ukraine, that's a real genocide. There's a generation of young men who have been wiped out for no other reason other than to use up the military-industrial complex's old stock, had to be used up in time for Israel to do what they wanted to do and get all the nice shiny new stuff. So the Ukrainians were genocided just to get rid of old military stock, so that the people controlling all this, the bankers, could test out the new weapons of death on the Palestinians. And they planned this stuff well in advance. None of this just happened, you know. Everything is orchestrated by these bankers. You've got to understand, when you have an infinite amount of wealth, money is just numbers. It has no meaning anymore. So they do these things like a game. It's like a power thing for them. How much can they manipulate? What can they put us through? We are like toys to them. And so this is all orchestrated. And so what I'm saying is, if my work gets any traction, by the time the police who see the sense in what I'm saying actually come to find that out, there will already be a flock of low-life spies ready to subvert that movement, ready to get in with the any decent police who are working to save our civilization, the psychopaths and the evil, the real evil of the world, the ones that are in the CIA, the spies, are going to be looking to subvert it any way they can, be it violence, threats, calling for government policy, any way they can. They will be the ones that the police will come up against. If we ever get the police realizing they're on the side of the people, and so how can I prove to you that that is the case?
After they issued that 34 trillion and put the 34 trillion in the Treasury, 21 trillion that we can prove, and even more, I would argue, disappeared out the back door.
That was my point. What Catherine Austin Fitts said about the 21 trillion. So this message I want to get to the police that are on our side is they are being used as attack dogs on the front line of a society that is being thrust into decay. So people are going to be getting desperate. When people have nothing left to lose, they lose it, as Gerald Celente always says. And the police officers, our local police in our community, are going to be on the front line of that economic warfare. And they're going to be used as harvesters for the banks. And many of them are going to be killed for doing that. And so what's it worth to them? They're going to get their paycheck. And what I want them to be aware of is these spies, they don't just get a paycheck. Have a look at the wealth of these CIA people. They don't just get wages. They don't just have, the sort of money that the police get. They are made very wealthy because they work for the bankers. I want to say directly, but of course on paper it's not directly, it's through the government. But the bankers own the government. And the bankers look after the CIA so well. And this goes back to way back in history, since the First World War. I'll get to that. The CIA are not on the front line. They don't have to deal with the impoverished public. Their life is not in danger on a daily basis. They're not sent out to harvest the bankers' theft. They're safely living in the life of luxury, whereas our police, I think it's so important for them to realize that for them to do what needs to be done, they're going to be coming up against the CIA. The CIA, most of them are involved with this satanic ritual stuff. It's a part of this secret society organization. It's a very evil establishment. Whereas when it comes to police, there are many police who are involved with Satanism. You've only got to look at here in Australia, both the Western Australian police and the Victorian police walk around with an upside down star, which is like a satanic symbol, because the star, the 5-pointed star facing upright, is a symbol of spirituality. It's spirit, wind, fire, earth, water. And so when you invert it and turn it upside down, it's pointing the spirit downwards. And so it's a satanic symbol. And both the Western Australian and Victorian police walk around with that satanic symbol on their heads. So no doubt many police officers are involved with this satanic ideology, this Satanism that they do. I don't know how closely connected they are to the CIA, but I have a feeling they're not connected. I have a feeling they are like rivals. That's just my guess. I have no proof of that. It's just a sense that I get. Our local police, from right down to the low-ranking rookies, through the ranks up and being cut off at the point where they're obviously on the take. But all those police in that range are actually on our team. And they will come to realize that if we make this a movement. they are going to be putting their lives in danger on a daily basis, and it's all for nothing. It's all for peanuts. The CIA, I would urge any police who are starting to wake up to the reality of things to use whatever tools you have at your disposal to see what kind of wealth these CIA agents have, because I'm going to show you a couple of more little bits of evidence. But this is also, I think this is kind of a well-known thing, because they're always involved in the black ops. It was the CIA that went into Afghanistan and re-established the heroin trade. You know, they are on the big money. They leave a legacy that will last for hundreds of years. When they die, their children will never have to work. Every CIA agent who is working for these bankers will be leaving a legacy. And I'm talking like a seriously massive financial legacy that will last for hundreds of years. The low-ranking police in our local community who we need to fight this war for us, they get nothing. They get, bullets and knives and hatred, and why would they keep doing what they're doing for what they get, knowing that the people who are actually the muscle of this evil are being so richly rewarded for doing evil and literally dragging human civilization into hell, into overt slavery. That's where the war really is. If we want to see the wars that are happening, the military wars where nations are fighting against nations through innocent young men who don't even know why they're shooting each other. If we want to see that idiotic, barbaric practice put to an end so that we can actually become an advanced civilization, the only way that's going to happen is when the good and righteous people who work for the police actually find the courage to take action against the spies who work for the bankers. That's the real war. And that's the point of this video. And I'm going to verify that for you in a couple more ways. So I've got another short clip from David Rogers Webb.
Central banks are always joined at the hip with warfare because it creates the massive debt escalation. So World War I fueled enormous global debt. Now, what the Federal Reserve did, and the Bank of England was created the same way to fund warfare. But what they do is they create the money out of thin air to buy the government debt. Now, what that does is it just dilutes everyone else's purchasing power. So a simple example, let's say you have $1 and then the Federal Reserve creates $2. What that means is they now have twice the purchasing power you did, and you have a third of the purchasing power you did before. That's how they get this incredible power, but also they are charging interest on the money they've created out of thin air to buy the Treasury debt. So the Treasury debt could have been issued directly by the Treasury. And then any interest being paid would essentially be to the people of the country that issued the debt. By inserting themselves as a private central bank and then kicking off a war with massive escalation debt, that's what gives them a power over the government and of all society that is unshakable from that point. So they're being paid this incredible amount of money. Essentially, it's an extraction from all of the efforts of everyone in the society being paid to these people on money they created out of nothing. Then they use the Treasury bonds as their capital to lever up the banking system 10 to 1 on top of that and make loans to the public. So it's all done without any capital of their own in this. So World War I, then you have a bubble and bust. They created so it happened in fairly short order from the end of World War I, a bubble in the 20s, the bust beginning in 29, and then a comprehensive tightening of economic conditions and the closure. So the closure of the banks, they literally put out of business all of their competitors over a weekend, so that the only banks that reopened were the Federal Reserve banks and their selected banks that were within their system. Then confiscating the gold from the public fits in this, because they did not want an alternative system. It was about having that there was no recourse but the credit creation of their banks. And that's what we've been ever since. Ever since. Same thing happened with the Bank of England. It is like a coup that puts them in place to control everything. And that's why, cycling back to the situation we have here with, whether it's gold or Bitcoin, I think it makes sense to diversify and have different things. But my message to these very wealthy people, all the way to the top of the system, is you cannot hide from this. Ultimately, they are coming for everything. So what they did in the 30s, one of the apologists for the Fed writing about this calls it a regime shifting policy. And it certainly was. It established the Federal Reserve System in a completely with total power over the government, over the society, and something that has not been possible to challenge. Although I think we have to get to that.
Yes, we absolutely do have to get to the point of challenging this evil. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So you notice what he just talked about there. There is the fact that these central bankers need war. And if you understand anything about the way the CIA go into foreign nations to do regime change operations and to trigger unrest and cause uprisings. And I mean, the CIA are the military arm of the bankers. They physically cause the wars if they can't be caused politically. Obviously, the politicians work hand in hand to try to cause wars politically, but it's the CIA who has the evil lowlives who will go out there and actually do the dirty work of causing the slaughter of innocents. And this is the real enemy. These secret societies and spies, and it's like something out of a Hollywood movie, but it's actually real. So it's no joke. It's dragging us into hell and overt slavery, and we're in the last days of this now. Like, if they manage to pull off this satellite web together with these 5G towers all around us and bring in a central bank digital currency, it's over. We are slaves who can be zapped dead at any moment, and there will be no way to resist it. And they're very close. They're putting up these satellites. Elon Musk, who somehow people think he's on our side, is launching these things which are going to entrap us. They're building these towers all around us. I mean, they're wrapping this up now. They're so close. And so the other thing that David Rogers Webb just talked about there is how they will take the gold. It's not because they need it. It's not because, you know, they need to have backing so that they can lend out more fiat currency or whatever bullshit they make up. They will want to extract all the resources, that anything that could be used as an alternative system. So of course that's Bitcoin, gold and silver. They will go after that. And people need to be aware this is what is coming. If we allow evil to continue to run rampant, we can see our slavery. It's in front of us now. We can see this being set up. From that clip there, I also wanted you to take notice of, I thought that was an excellent example of how inflation really works. It's not merely that they print themselves free currency. It's what it does to what we work for. Not only they don't have to work for it, but it cuts down the purchasing power of the stuff that we do work for. It's robbery. It's theft from everyone. This stuff bothers me, you know, because I don't want to be a slave. I've only got this one life as far as I know. I hope I've only got this one life. I don't want to come back here. Actually, that's why I do what I do with this channel. I don't want to come back here. I don't want to suffer another lifetime of this slavery to these evil monsters. I want to be free. And for whatever years I've got left, I want to live them as a free man. And I'm not going to be able to do that unless some people stand up against this evil. And, you know, I'm putting my faith in the fact that there must be some decent people in the police force. And I know I'm taking a real risk that may not be the case, because, you know, my dad always said to me, well, at a time when I was hanging around with some sort of not so good kids, he said how only cowards and people who can't think for themselves get mixed up with gangs. And I really took that to heart, you know. And I've always been very much a loner. I don't get involved with groups and stuff. I just do my own thing. People who join the police force are actually joining a gang. And if you ask my dad, that would make them cowards. And so here I am, as I see it, placing the future of human civilization into a class of people who my father would call cowards. But what choice do we have? Only in America do they have another option. Americans still have their guns, but the rest of the world, we're unarmed. So what choice do I have? I do this, I say the things that I say here because I see that that's our only option. We need the people who are in the police to understand that human civilization is on the line, and they are in fact human beings. They are on the side of the people. And unless they're making hundreds of billions of dollars by working for the central bankers directly, which I've got further evidence to say that the CIA operatives actually do, there's just no reason for them to serve this. There's no reason for them to put themselves on the front line and get themselves killed for what peanuts they get, when the real enemy is these CIA operatives. And I don't know how many there are, but there's way more police. And this is the real war. This is the point of what I'm saying here. So I'll include another little piece of evidence here to show you how well the CIA are looked after compared with your local police. Have a listen.
$40 billion, but there's no baby formula for American mothers and babies. An unknown amount of money to the CIA in the Ukraine supplemental bill, but there's no formula for American babies and mothers.
So to all the low-ranking police officers out there, wouldn't you like to be on the receiving end of an unknown amount of money in the billions? You know, this is what happens with the CIA. The last little clip I want to share with you here is from the documentary that I've already uploaded on my channel that's going to talk about the way Nathan Rothschild paid a spy to go and see who was winning on the battlefield. And then when he came back and told Nathan Rothschild that the British had won, Rothschild decided to spread fake news about Napoleon having won, which brought down the value of their currency. So he was able to go and buy up all their whatever pounds or whatever it was on the stock market at a discounted price. So by the time the official news came that Britain had won, the value of the currency shot up and made them some astronomical amount of wealth. That wealth was made on top of the wealth that they made by funding both sides of that war. So all the death that happened in that war never could have happened because both sides couldn't have afforded all the weapons, and no doubt the manipulation that was implanted in the minds of all the soldiers to actually motivate them to go out there and fight that war would have also been propagated by these evil demonic monsters. So how much blood these people have on their hands is not even countable. It's like off the scale. The wealth that they have been building upon since back then has been built upon a crime. That means every single cent of it, going right back to the beginning, is owed to the people because it's the proceeds of crime. Make a mental note as you listen to the fact that the Rothschilds have been paying spies since the beginning of their evil reign. Which backs my point that I'm making today. The spies, the CIA, they're the ones that are being looked after. They're the ones that are going to leave a legacy for their future generations. While most of you young cops won't even get to have a family because you have been poisoned. And that's another point that I wanted to make. When the police start thinking about what I'm saying here, have a look at the vaccination records. I guarantee you, nobody in the CIA and none of the bankers got any shots. They will live out their full lives. They will all be fully fertile. They will not have their bodies full of shit, and they're all infinitely more wealthy than anybody else. They're the ones behind all of this evil. The police that I'm saying need to join with the people are the victims of all this evil. And we need to be able to see where the battle lines are. We need to see who's on the side of good, working to help manifest the world that our Creator intended for us, and who's on the side of evil, who is working to enslave us and oppress us. And so much of what they do makes me think they really just want to completely destroy us. I mean, the whole thing about demonizing CO2, it's just, I mean, that's not even about control. That's about pure destruction. We already are low on CO2, but that's not what this video is about. I think I've explained where the real war is and where the war needs to be. None of these other wars that they're really working hard to kick off should be happening. There's just one war that needs to happen, and that's the war that could end all wars. And I think if the low-ranking police officers come to terms with this fact, and whether they just want to unite with each other or unite with the people, There's way more of us, and we've got God on our side. We do not need to be victims to these monsters. We just need to wake up to the reality of what's happening and accept the fact that sometimes, you get fooled. You get roped into something that you didn't know what it was, and shit happens, and you don't have a choice about where you are now. None of us do. I don't want to be doing this. I'm interested in journalism and truth-telling because I see it as something that's absolutely necessary in this day. But I actually like building things. I like being outside and working with my hands. And for me, sitting at a computer screen is actually quite agonizing. But I'm doing it because I see a lot of things that most people don't see. Nobody else is saying what I'm saying. And so I feel obligated to do this, as I spent a lot of time seeking answers in a spiritual way with my prayers, and I've just been receiving these downloads and coming across things that fit right in with my seeking. And so I feel like I have to do this. But as you can see, I have no reach. No, I mean, even on my other channel, which I'm not even allowed to tell you where that is here on YouTube, but even there, I've only got like under 500 subscribers. So it's like I get no benefit from this. When you only have such a small audience, it's very, very unrewarding. There's no joy in it whatsoever. It's all out and nothing coming back as far as like reward. And when I say reward, I'm not talking about money, but even just gratitude. Like there's nothing in it for me. But I do it because I know nobody else is going to say what I'm saying. Who else is going to come out and say that this is the real war? The police are on the side of the people. The CIA are on the side of the bankers. This is the real war. If the police wake up to what's going on and they take down these bankers, they can be the richest people on the earth instead of these evil bankers, providing they actually do this for the people and with the people to get us into a world where our rights are respected. That's the only way we, the people, are giving our permission for this to go ahead, because we want our rights back. We want our rights respected. We don't want all these bullshit laws that actually mean nothing but slavery. The only way we can be free is when all of our rights are respected, which means that we are entitled to do everything that doesn't cause harm or loss to another person. Nobody else sees the battlefield the way I see it. Nobody else is willing to call it like that. Most people are still talking about who they're going to vote for. Let's vote for another overlord who's a straight up criminal. Let's vote for our own slavery. Let's vote for Donald Trump, who's already proven what a traitor he is, who's already been proved as being a pedophile, who's already shown that he won't stand up against the establishment. I wonder why, with all these trips on Epstein's plane and all this shit. I mean, I don't understand how anybody could still think that voting is going to do anything but give this satanic agenda more years to move forward. And we don't have more years. If you ask me, we have this year, this crash, it's happening. They can't keep. I mean, look how many tens of billions of dollars they're just trying to print up and give out to the weapons manufacturers. The central banks are using wars to destroy the value of our currency. They know they can't just take away the US dollar, or in Australia, they can't just take away our cash because we will want to keep it. It has value. So they're subverting, they're doing it in a way that we have no say about it. They are just printing up tens of, even hundreds of billions of dollars giving it all to the weapons manufacturers who are the central bankers. They're the same families. These mega corporations who are involved in this cult, it's all getting funneled into these same evil families. So they're killing two birds with one stone. They're destroying the currency, which gets them closer to, oh, well, your money's not worth anything now, so you'll have to take our CBDC slavery. You see what I'm saying? That once they destroy the value of the currency, which they are doing on a day-by-day basis, every day they keep printing, they are extracting the value out of our currency and taking us closer and closer to their solution, which is their CBDC, which is absolutely unnecessary because we already have money. It would be, you don't even need to be able to do fifth grade mathematics to be able to convert all prices into gold and silver. It's a perfect monetary system that is already in place. People just need to understand that. We can still have digital transactions because it's so easy to set up software that converts your gold holdings into a digital exchange system. This is simple stuff, you know. We already have this. It's all in place. There's no problem at all with doing this. The only problem with it is these rotten, evil, demonic central bankers who are committing so many crimes and working to enslave us in the most blatant way. And the only reason this is still going on is because the high-ranking order givers in the police force are not giving the orders to go and deal with this. You know, so we the people have to give the orders. We the people have to give the permission that this needs to be dealt with. And whoever your superiors are who are not dealing with it, you know, that's the problem. That's the real problem. And to deal with it, you're going to come up against the true evil who are actually willing to do violence, but you join the police force knowing that violence would be a part of your job. And all I'm saying is don't commit it against innocent people because you will only invite suffering into your life for that. Just look at the lives of all police. Look at the suffering. Look at the abuse, not just within their training, as I spoke about in my earlier video. The abuse between relationships and the misery and the suffering and the mental illness and this is all a result of inflicting violence on people who don't deserve it. If you're going to use violence, use it on the people who are trying to destroy our civilization. And I would bet my life that you will be looked after so well. You will be, as I said, the wealthiest people on this earth. That is within reach. And not only that, your names will go into the history books. You will actually be remembered forever. You will actually be a part of the writing of history. You know, because right now the central bankers write the history, but when they finally receive the justice that has been owing to them for more than a century, finally the true history can be written. And those who find the courage to deal with these problems that we are facing, you'll be heroes. You'll be heroes, and your name will never die. And you'll get to live out your days with a level of wealth that you couldn't even imagine. And it will be just. It will be righteous. It will be the right thing. You know, I mean, this is just a no-brainer. I really feel like all I'm doing here is stating the obvious, but nobody else is stating the obvious. So if you see that what I'm saying is very much obvious and very much necessary, and you haven't come up with any better ideas, please share this video with someone. I mean, look, I'm hoping that my work here gets some reach. I would be happy to do a proper podcast, and there's lots of people I would love to interview. But if nobody likes my ideas, I'm also happy to go back to my life of living for myself again, you know? So whatever happens, happens. But if you agree with what I'm saying, share the love in some way, hit like, share the video, subscribe to my channel, and I will look forward to being with you again in the next video. God bless everyone. See you soon.
Remember when we said Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo? While everyone saw it as a final battle for control of the world, the Rothschilds saw it as an opportunity to increase their wealth. And they did it in the most terrible way. To understand what they did, you need to understand how the stock exchange and bonds work. But we'll explain it as simple as possible. The Rothschilds knew that if Napoleon won the battle, everyone in Britain would be disappointed. And that disappointment would affect the price of the pound sterling on the stock exchange, because the pound sterling is the official currency of the British. On the other hand, if the British won, then the pound sterling would become more valuable and increase in price on the stock exchange. And so, Nathan Rothschild paid a spy to wait on the battlefield to see who won the battle.
You see what I mean? The bankers have been paying spies since the beginning.
Nathan Rothschild paid a spy to wait on the battlefield to see who won the battle. So the spy watched the battle from his hiding place and saw that Napoleon was defeated. What he did next was legendary. The spy sent a pigeon to Nathan, informing him that the British had won. This meant that the pound sterling was going to be more valuable on the stock market. But nobody else knew the British had won because the official British horse messenger hadn't arrived in London yet. Nathan knew something nobody else did, and he used this information in a way only a heartless man would. Instead of celebrating Britain's victory, Nathan ordered his agents to spread fake news.
As they say, there is nothing new under the sun. The same demons are spreading the same fake news today. These are the people behind the fake news that got you all poisoned.
Nathan ordered his agents to spread fake news that Napoleon had won. When people heard this fake news, it caused panic selling of the British bonds on the stock exchange. The panic selling caused the price of the pound sterling to drop. And then Nathan, the same man who spread the fake news, ordered his agents to buy up all the bonds people were selling at rock bottom prices. 24 hours later, when the official government messenger arrived with news that the British had won, it was already too late. The British victory made the pound sterling shoot up in value. And because the Rothschilds had bought so much on the stock market, it made the Rothschilds incredibly wealthy overnight. According to reports, the Rothschilds made the equivalent of $6 billion due to that single move. And this set the stage for the next time Rothschilds changed the world by controlling how people think. Here's how they did it. The Rothschilds had amassed more money than they could spend in their lifetime.
I just have to make another statement that nobody else is willing to make. The British police, the police of London, are 100% responsible for the death and suffering of every innocent man, woman, and child in Palestine. This rotten family who keeps getting away with mass murder is being protected by police. They would not be able to do what they do if it wasn't for the police. Therefore, the police are responsible for the genocide that is happening right now in Palestine. Tell me I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, please explain to me how I'm wrong about that. Because I can't stand watching any more of these children being torn to bits and elderly men being violently assaulted. This is an assault on the entire civilization of mankind, having to watch this evil. And it is the British police that are responsible for it. That's what needs to be said. And it needs to be said by everyone, not by somebody who has not even got a channel, but nobody else has got the courage to say it. So I'll say it because it's a fact.